All right, can I have your attention, please? We're going to call the budget hearing to order here at 6 o'clock. Thank you all for coming on the snowy night. I think we are going to try to schedule, well, we'll have to make a decision whether we weren't sure whether we were going to lose some people. So if we did, we will schedule an alternate date and have, I think we're going to try to do it at the end of next week's selectmen's meeting. Yeah. So for those who can't get here tonight, could come to that and could get caught up on whatever questions they have relative to the budget. With that, I am going to turn it over to our famous town manager, Mr. Mark Dakota.
Famous or infamous, one of
the two.
Famous. We do have a microphone. If you can't hear me, let me know and I will use the microphone, but I'd really rather not. So it's a pretty small group, but if my voice starts to fail, raise your hand, throw something at me, or whatever. Okay, so we are here for two purposes. Every year we are required by state law to have a hearing on the town budget and what will appear on the warrant at town meeting. Remember to mark your calendars because town meeting is the second Tuesday of March. This year it's March 11th. And the deliberative session, when we'll be talking about all this budget stuff, will begin at 3 o'clock. The voting this year, because we are electing an executive counselor, right, Pat? Yes. Will be from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay? And everything will take place in the gym. Right? So March 11th. Okay, the other part, right over here, the gym right over here. Yep. The other part of this evening, because we are proposing a bond issue over $100,000, we are required to hold a public hearing on that bond. So we have one bond issue that's being proposed this evening, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But this also constitutes the hearing on that bond issue. Next slide. So just a couple, we did this last year, but for those of you who weren't here, we have a couple of definitions. The operating budget, you're going to see those words a lot in the packet. That is the expenditures for our department operations. It does not include any bonds. It does not include what you'll see as special or individual warrant articles. And it does not include anything to the capital reserve. So that is just the operations of each of the departments of the town. Revenues, we do have a revenue number. It is an estimate at this point in time. We use that just to set the budget and come up with an estimate on the amount to be raised by taxes. The Board of Selectmen are allowed to modify those revenues in September, and then they are allowed to modify them again in October when we set the tax rate. So as we go through the year, we'll see how the revenues come in. If the selectmen want to make changes, they have two opportunities to do that before we set the tax rate. Those revenues are used to reduce the amount that we have to raise by taxes. So they're pretty important. When you see the number there, it's over $1.5 million, so it's pretty substantial. Okay. And finally, an appropriation. An appropriation is an amount of money that is authorized by town meeting to be spent during the fiscal year. The Board of Selectmen, myself, the department heads, we can't spend $1 more than what you appropriate at town meeting. You are the legislative body of the town. So you guys make that decision on how much money we raise. All right?
Mark, can I ask just a clarifying question?
Sure.
The definition of operating budget.
Yes.
There's new bonds, which I understand are not in there.
That's
but
correct.
The principal and interest payments on previous bonds are in the operating
That's
budget.
correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct. All right.
All right. Because that's not an insignificant
That's
number.
right. There's a big increase because we have several bonds that were previously approved by town meeting that we took several years to actually take the bond, and you'll see the impact of those debt service payments this year. all right? Any other questions or anything else, Margaret? All set? Okay. So the bottom line up front, I was always told to do that. The tax impact of our proposed budget, the way it is in this packet, is a total increase on the town operations, including all bonds and everything, okay, of $344,551. On a $250,000 property at our current valuation for the town, that is about $260 for the year. And then $500,000 property would be $520, and $750,000 property about $780. Yes.
Does that $344,000 represent any warrant articles that you're asking for?
It represents everything that's in the warrant.
So it's
The
assuming-
operating budget, everything passes.
So it assumes everything
It
passes?
assumes everything passes, it's a $344,000.
Mike, as I read this,
Yep,
that's an increase of approximately 13.5% increase.
that's correct.
Make it simple.
Yes. Okay. Next slide. So how does that break down? On the left-hand column there, you have fiscal year 2013. That's what we approved last year at town meeting. The new bonds, we actually approved more than that, but we did not use the $406,000 to buy the Stone property land. Remember that article? That money, that authorization has ceased. It's gone because the Board of Selectmen had until January 15th, I think, to act on that. They did not, so the authorization went away. So it did lapse. But the $1,089,000 is the balance, the rest of the projects. The other warrant articles that we had last year totaled $105,000, and you can see our revenues that we took off from that total appropriation. We raised $2,418,286 in taxes last year for town operations. No school, no county, just the town. This year is the next column, fiscal year 14, and the changes. You can see significantly less in the amount of bonding and more in the other warrant articles because the board has moved one major item, the new ambulance, which was going to be bonded. They moved that over to pay for it all in 2014. So that has an impact on that $290,000, and we'll talk about the details in a second. And then you can see there's a big decrease in the estimated revenues. That's because the estimated revenues include the bond proceeds. From an accounting standpoint, you have the bond authorization, you recognize the revenue even if you don't borrow the money. So that's why there's such a big impact on the revenues and a decrease in that. The budget summary, how we get to the $4,337,000 number is on page 1 and 2 of your packets. And we'll go through that. You can see on page 2, just at the bottom there, the $4,337,000 in that middle column, 2014 proposed, minus the revenues, gives us the estimated amount to be raised. And then in the box, just so we start taking out these other pieces so you can see the town departments, that bottom number in the box is the town departmental budgets. And you can see those are up about $203,000. But again, as Bill pointed out, that does include that debt service payment, principal and interest, okay? All right, so next slide, Tom. So of the $203,000 increase at the bottom there, $166,000 of that is due to the bond principal and interest. And if you look a little bit further up the page, on page 2, you'll see line 4711 and 4721. And that is the debt service principal and interest, and you can see 156,000 and 9,700 on the interest side.
Line 4550, you said you would put that 4,000
Yeah,
back?
I'm gonna talk to the board after the meeting, yes,
On the library, you mean?
on the library.
Yeah, I noticed.
So the new bonds that we have in your packet, there are sheets that show the actual debt service at the very back of the packet. You look on page 16, shows you the debt service principal portion by department, what's authorized and what we propose. And then should be page 17, the last page, shows you the debt service. It breaks down every one of the loans that we currently have, which bank, our interest rates, and everything else for you. It also shows you in the big box at the bottom in the middle what each department's portion of that is and what project it is. So that just kind of lays it out for you, what we currently have for that. The two boxes on the left at the bottom are our new bonds from this year. We replaced two tanks at the wastewater treatment plant. That was a $500,000 bond. And then we had the repairs on, oh, I lost my glasses. We had the repairs on the road out at West Branch and Triple I Road, and we paid for the new dumpsters and other recycling things. That was about $200,000. So those are the two new loans that we have outstanding. Any questions on that at this point? Okay. The balance of the difference, about $37,000, is primarily due to two things. It's due to increases in our increases in our retirement payments that we have to make for all of the full-time employees. And it's also due to health insurance premium increases. The retirement comes to about $16,600. It's broken out differently for police, fire, and administrative personnel, but the average is right around about 9 or 10% when you average all of them together.
So
and what has happened?
We have a funded pension plan?
We participate in the state retirement system. The state used to subsidize it fairly heavily. They have been pulling back from that subsidy, and these increases are a result of that pullback.
But ours is a funded plan.
It is a fixed benefits plan. There is some question as to whether it's fully funded. They are calculating that, and they are supposed to report in the next biennium to us whether or not it's funded.
Big question.
I would be shocked.
I would be
if the
shocked
state
if it's
actually
funded.
the pension.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would be shocked also,
right.
but that's a big potential issue.
It could be.
Yeah, what it looks like is going to happen is it's going to be an accounting drill. It will show up on our balance sheet within the next 2 or 3 years as an unfunded liability, but I don't know what that number will be
Yeah, no, I
for us.
understand you can't
But
even hazard.
they're trying to calculate that now.
It's gonna take them 3 years.
Yeah, sometime in the next biennium they're supposed to tell us. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay. The health insurance rate increase, we have a guaranteed maximum rate increase this year of 4.8%. And that's over our 2013 budgeted number. So that's about $16,000 also. The rest of the increase is adds and subtracts throughout the budget. We've got some one-time and first-time items that we'll talk about, some special resort support things and stuff like that that add up to the rest of the $37,000. Okay? Any questions on that? Next slide, please. So here's since 2008, these numbers are the amount that we've actually raised in taxes right off the tax calculation sheet. So the 2008 to 2013 numbers are the actual numbers that we sent out with the tax bills for town operations. And then you have 2014. You can see numbers in that middle line there for fund balance used. We maintain a fund balance or a surplus year to year. It's made up of money that we don't spend out of the budget and money that in revenues that we collect over what we estimate our revenues to be. Those go into the fund balance. The fund balance is kind of like your checking account balance, okay, because it also provides for the cash flow to get us between tax bills. So the recommendation on fund balance and the use of fund balance by the state and national government finance officers is to maintain somewhere between 8 and 17% of your budget, your total budget, in fund balance. For us, that means between $500,000 and about $1 million is the range where we should be. We're currently at about $725,000 to $750,000, which puts us right at about 11%. So we have a good fund balance, but we do have this $240,000 above the 725 to 750. Our books aren't finished being audited yet, so I can't tell you the exact number. But we have the $240,000, which the board has decided to apply to certain projects or items to purchase. One-time purchases, capital items that have a relatively long life. It's not for operations of the department. It's for big ticket items, okay? And we have done that before, and you can see the numbers there on where we've used fund balance in the past. 10 years ago, we didn't have a very healthy fund balance. We've been building it up, and we're finally at a spot where we don't have to borrow in anticipation of taxes between tax bills. That's a good thing. It saves us some interest. And it just gives us that ability to do our big projects and pay for them as we go. Mike?
So at the beginning you said that there was something about $100,000 figure that if we have a big ticket item that costs over $100,000, we had to get a warrant article or something?
That's a bond issue. That's actually borrowing money. That's going out and getting a loan from a bank. Okay? This is cash as in taxes coming in and paying for it as we go.
So where I was going to go is that if you're going to buy big ticket items, if I thought you required a warrant article for anything over $100,000, since this 240, does that forego the warrant article? But it's a viewpoint because that was the bond issue, not a warrant article.
That's right, and these are broken down. That $240,000, they have their own individual warrant articles. We'll talk about them in a second.
Is everyone clear on that? Use the example of the fire truck. Not the fire truck, the ambulance. The ambulance is $180,000.
Right.
If we bonded that, it would have to show up as a warrant article.
That's correct.
If we're paying for it out of the budget, it still shows up. But if you wanted to take it out, you'd have to vote the budget down and say, take that item out of the budget. So it's just, it gets reviewed, but it gets reviewed in different places because it's being paid for out of cash. It would not show up as a warrant article.
Well, it will be its own.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because we're using fund balance.
Because we're using
We're
fund
using
balance.
fund balance to pay for the
Right.
ambulance. So it will have its own warrant article, but it's a simple majority vote, and you know, we can deliberate, we can change the amount, whatever you want to do. You can do a town meeting. Yes, sir?
Is this 240,000 a fraction of
the $750,000?
No, we
No,
have
it's-
close to $1 million.
We have to, $1 million right now
We're bringing
total.
it down to
We're bringing it
750.
down to 750. Okay, so let's talk about the bond request here.
Mark,
Yes.
would you go back to the previous
Go back.
slide? Because one of the things that we do need to cover is, probably we don't remember, but last year, we made a decision to take a big chunk of that fund balance and use it to just reduce taxes. And we said there was going to be a one-time, 1 year only, 7% reduction in taxes. So one of the reasons why the taxes, they were still up, but they're not up. When they look at that 13%, half of that is because of a decision we made last year to drive them down, deliberately reduce them.
That's right, Bill. Here, and what Bill's talking about is the 2,600,000 going down to 2,400,000. So we had almost an 8% decrease in the town portion of the tax rate last year. And the 155,000 was part of that decrease. Okay? The bond request. The bond warrant article will be for $235,800. That's what it's going to say. The project to build the public works garage, and I don't have the updated. We can put this in.
I like that.
Or you can put it, whatever you want. So Mike, do you want to talk to this, or do you want me to? It's up to you.
You can give it out if there's anything I feel I need to
Okay.
add, I will.
All right. So we've been looking at the whole town office facility for several years now. In 2011, when we started talking about the recycling center and how we were going to do recycling in town, this 4-bay garage was part of a bond that was passed at the 2011 town meeting. So we've taken the general concept of this, we've updated the facade, and we've actually located it right here. Here's the existing town hall and the fire station, right? And the other building is the salt shed, right? Down the hill where the old gas station used to go, the proposed location for a building like this, a 4-bay public works garage, will go right here in the woods, set into the woods, into the hill. That will allow us to get access in the back and have storage above the vehicles as they pull into the bays. It also helps us with the traffic pattern. It matches the recycling center. It also, in this location, lets the public works crew be right there where the recycling and the trash drop-off is going on. So that will be an added benefit. We'll get some monitoring of our recycling area by having Jim and the guys down there. These 4 bays will allow us to put all of our equipment inside. Right now, all of our trucks are stored outside. If it's an icy situation or whatever, we have extra time and risk of people getting injured on the icy equipment. This will allow us to keep the trucks inside. Hopefully, we will be able to wash them. Hopefully, they'll last longer. Get more life out of them. So, also in making this the public works area, we're going to be vacating a bay where we do maintenance right now in the back. That maintenance area will move over here, and it will allow public safety to move one of their vehicles to the back, all right, in that bay. That's important because if we're going to get this new ambulance, it's larger than our current ambulance. And I don't know if you've ever been in, but we drive the ambulance in underneath the ladder truck. When we get the new one, we won't be able to do that anymore. So we need a place to put the ambulance, and we don't have the bay space to do that. So by moving Public Works out of the building, we'll be creating that space for public safety. All right? The building is 4,800 square feet. I just want to make sure I've covered everything. Public safety is going to occupy. So now that we're talking about the bond issue, I'm supposed to answer any questions that you have about the building or the project. So, one more thing. We are gonna, no, that's good, Margaret, you can put that down. As I said, the selectmen and I we want to get this point really across. It is not a $235,000 building. It is a project estimated with the building and the groundwork and everything at $800,000. Town meeting has already authorized $564,000 of that, which is that tan building, okay? That's the portion of that $1 million bond, okay? So the total building is $800,000. Any questions? Did I forget anything?
No, I think you did.
Why,
Yes.
why is it more expensive now than it was when you were-
Mike, what happened was we put a rough estimate in for a building. We didn't know what we were going to do with the building when we first started recycling. We wanted to give an estimate to the whole town as to what recycling would cost. And we looked at recycling 3 or 4 different ways, with buying a new truck, replacing dumpsters, as well as a building. What we did, the building committee met and we looked at the utilization of the current buildings we have and going forward into other uses. And we came up with the concept of a building and we put it out, and we were expecting a building to come in at $500,000 or $600,000. It didn't.
Okay.
The groundwork.
To situate the building in the place that makes the most sense, which we came to the agreement, was to back it into that hill, so there's upstairs access into the building as well as offices and everything else in it. The site work was one thing. There's a water line there, which was another thing we didn't know about. But also to build a building that we wanted that would last and look good. We didn't want to build a Sears shed like the salt shed looks like. We wanted something that would be appropriate as we go forward to rehab the town hall and expand the town hall, which is the next phase we're working on over the next couple of years. So we priced it out and we took it to a few different companies. It came back at nowhere near what we had done. We had sent it out again with a request from the contractors to cut back on things and see what we could get for closer to our number. And as we got closer to the number, the things that we would not get would not make it worth putting the building up. So this is what we, as a group, voted on. We spent probably a year on this. And I think it's our best value, which will give us what the public safety people as well as the public works people will be needing in the next few years. We're not going to build a building that's going to be obsolete the day it opens. So that's why we're coming back to do it properly.
Any other questions? One other thing that I want to point out, and there's a single page sheet that's in the back with the packets. It's just a graphical representation of the entire capital plan. The planning board every year works on a 5 to 7 year capital improvements program. So they're looking at all of our needs, all of our vehicles, all of our buildings, roads, water and sewer lines, everything, and they're trying to put together a plan that is several years out. If you take our current capital program and you put it all, and we do everything at the amounts that we currently have set, this is what our total debt looks like. So what is this? The blue line is our total debt for water, sewer, town, everything. The yellow line is the year-to-year expenditures, okay? And the purple line is the payments that we have to make on the principal of this total debt. Okay, so we're just showing you year to year out to 2028 what our debt is gonna look like. Now, obviously, the CIP ends in 2019, so that's why this drops off to 0, okay? But if we do, and that includes a lot of different projects. It includes cleaning the sludge lagoons of the wastewater treatment plant. It includes buying a new trash truck. It includes a new ladder truck. I can't believe Terry Waite's not here. And I actually had to say it. It includes phase 2 of the buildings.
How about,
So-
actually includes paying for the
And-
water and sewer project, which we've been,
And that's here.
yeah.
That's why the big spike. We gotta pay for the water and sewer lines and the new well out in the National Forest. So that's all part of this. Bob?
I guess I'd just like to make a comment that, being on that committee, we looked at this extensively, and as far as the new building, and it's not a want by the town. We just decided it's come down to reality now that it's a real necessity. So I think that's why it's kind of gone forward at this point in time.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. No, we're okay. All right. Let's move on to the next slide. So these special warrant articles that we were talking about, they are not in the big warrant article for the department budgets. There are 5 of them. The first one is the ambulance replacement. Our current vehicle, Chris, you wanna talk at all to the current ambulance?
I certainly can. Our current ambulance is 10 years old. We got it in 2004. It's got 60,000 miles on it, which doesn't sound like a lot, but with ambulances, you go by hours. It's got 3,500 hours, which averages that it runs about 17 miles an hour. So, to you and me, that would be like having a vehicle with 160,000. So it's part of our vehicle replacement plan every 10 years for an ambulance, and the 10 years is up, and it's starting to cost us a lot of money in maintenance. Now we can, if we do choose to replace this ambulance, it will certainly save us money in maintenance over the years, warranties and such. So you're usually good for the first 5 years, being pretty cost effective in maintenance, and then after that you have to pay a little bit more each year. I'm starting to see that with this one. And also, every few years the standards change, so now there's a lot of new technology, new space, new requirements for space in the new ambulance. And the ambulance is probably our heaviest used piece of equipment in the fire department. Well, it certainly is the heaviest used piece of equipment in the fire department. And it's going to very good to have stuff that works. Is there any questions?
Hey, Chris, didn't we have to hire an outside ambulance company sometime in the last year because we
Yes, last winter we actually, Chief Noyes and myself were going out to a call. We got to Clearwater Lane and the ambulance died. So we had to call in Canton to go up and take care of the patient at the mountain. Thankfully it wasn't a serious patient. And the repair took weeks, or at least a good week. And it needed a new motor overhaul, valves. So to make a long story short, yes, Mario, we had to borrow an ambulance that was more like a van for a week and a half.
Mike?
Just curious, is there a secondary market for used ambulances?
There is.
And does this price include the sale of the existing one?
It does not. So yes, there will be a trade-in. Some trade-in value, usually a plumber or an electrician will buy them and use them as work vehicles.
Chris, most of the equipment is physical, most of the medical equipment is actually moved, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
That's
with
just
the
the
end
body
of the
and
old
chassis.
one is,
You
there's
don't-
nothing in it, it's
You don't
it's
get
gonna
much,
be an
it's like
empty
10
truck.
grand or so.
Yeah.
We always trade in all our vehicles, no matter what they look like.
I was just wondering what the less fortunate
We-
towns do getting our youth ambulances.
Yeah, it's usually, like I say, it's usually a plumber or a carpenter.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Any other questions?
With the new, with the new regs, wouldn't we possibly in a couple of years potentially lose certification?
No, as long as we have it, we're good. When we go to replace it, that's when you have to upgrade something. Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, good. We'll go on to the pedestrian village study.
Can I go
You,
back?
oh yes, go ahead.
I don't know where it's appropriate, but are you at any point gonna talk about the stone property?
The stone.
In other words, the stone, when we authorize 400, whatever it
Right.
was,
Yeah.
$1,000 to go and acquire the stone property
Yes.
for the benefit of the town because we thought it was good for the town. That period of time where it was authorized has expired for whatever the reason is.
Mhm.
The stone property is still sitting there.
No, it's been sold.
No, it's been
It's
sold.
been sold.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
That's a topic for another day.
Okay, that's fine.
Property was sold.
I'll talk to you about it.
We
later.
just didn't see a
Not
compelling
super
reason why the
motivated.
town
Yes.
wanted to compete. Yeah.
It had,
We didn't see a compelling reason at all why the town would want to acquire.
okay.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about next the pedestrian village study. And then this is from the planning board and they have a subcommittee. And Wendy Rathgaber is gonna do a short presentation on what the pedestrian village study is all about. We were calling it the transportation study last year. It really has changed in scope. So we've changed the name, for the project, and I think it's a lot more appropriate to what they want to do. So, Wendy?
Okay, can everybody hear me okay? I'm happy to use a microphone if not. Yes, that's good, okay. So, pedestrian village revitalization study is basically the planning board's next step that we want to take to develop a vision for the future of the town's commercial area. Next slide. This discussion's been going on for a number of years, beginning with the Transit Authority, also known as the Transportation Committee. They were really instrumental in establishing the bus system, addressed issues along the way, most notably recently the traffic calming. But starting a couple of years ago, the planning board's really been looking more closely at issues like parking, sidewalks, lighting. We formed several subcommittees along the way, and we kind of kept getting bogged down in debates that were based more on our own opinions as opposed to real expertise. So in October of last year, we formed a subcommittee that included Kathy Chandler, Nancy Knight, Cindy Pecos, and myself. And after we met with some of the business leaders in the community, we decided that the next best step for us would be to bring in experts in resort town traffic flow. So we sent out RFPs, which are requests for proposals, and we received 3 back. Quickly went through them. One of the companies, EcoSign, was really considered the weakest. They didn't address anything we were looking for. Most of their process was based on information they'd get digitally and on work that we would have to do as a town and provide to them. They didn't really want to seem to have a feel of our community. So we interviewed the remaining 2 companies, LSC out of Colorado and the SE Group and VHB from Burlington, Vermont and Bedford, New Hampshire, respectively. So SE Group and VHB did submit a joint proposal. Next slide. The results of the interviews were really very clear-cut. SE and VHB combined have a very solid approach, as well as all the resources that we need to have full confidence in their results. The engineers, architects, various planners all really have the experience to create for us a solid and doable plan. More importantly to us, the 2 groups both have experience in working with similar communities to ours, and they have a really well-established ability to communicate with town residents and property owners and use their feedback in developing a plan. Another key element about them is their knowledge of funding opportunities and their experience in helping to obtain it. Now, as a final note, some of their clear understanding of our needs is most likely from the history that SE Group has from working with the Waterville Company and the ski resort in the past. And honestly, the subcommittee went into the interviews a bit biased against them because of that experience. We wanted to get some fresh eyes on us. In talking to them, we realized their group was large enough that they actually would have different experts working with our project than who've worked here in the past. So we felt really confident in using them. And just to clarify even further, we are using them as a reference point to establish a number to request. We haven't signed any contracts with them. It's part of our due diligence essentially to go out there and really get the proposals so we know what we're talking about when we look for some money for this project. Next slide. So essentially what they had proposed was a study that covered 9 months. It would also include a traffic study during this month's Massachusetts Vacation Week, essentially to make sure that they had a really clear picture of our needs during really busy winter weeks. As part of my note before, that study they're doing this month will be the town's data. So if this is approved, this 90,000 is approved, and we go forward, we won't necessarily have, we will be revisiting with SE Group and VHB and make sure that we're doing exactly what the town is interested in. And if we decide to go a different route, that data that's gleaned in February belongs to the town, not to them. So basically, well, by the end of their 9 months, we would have a nice final report that would help us oversee any projects in the future. So final slide. So overall, our goal is really to develop a well thought out, comprehensive, sophisticated plan that encompasses the town's point of view. And that will support future development of the town core. We all know the development of this area will come at some point in the future, and we really want to be prepared with a vision that will address the needs of the town. So that's a brief summary. If anyone has any questions, happy to entertain. Yes.
What projects were they contracted for those two associations? When were they done and what were the results of those?
In Waterville Valley specifically, they weren't necessarily working with the town, so it wasn't a similar type of project, but the most recently was working with the Waterville Company in helping develop their master plan for the town core, the commercial area of the town. That was their most recent exposure. I'm not as familiar with what they've done with the ski resort, but I know through the years they've assisted in planning up there as well.
And how does that prior work with the town core relate to this issue of the town core?
I think we should add on make a note, February 22nd, 3 o'clock at the conference center. The SE Group is going to present, because they did this work in terms of how could we create that entire ring road, make this into a true pedestrian village, right? And they've got a vision, drawings, the whole thing, and they're gonna present that. And that's what the planning board, selectmen and others went to. And it's one of the concepts in that is to try to get rid of as much wasted parking space, roads, networks, and use that land for more productive purposes. And that's what their presentation is all about. I would absolutely encourage you to go see it. It's not unique. I mean, there are lots of towns that tried to do this. But they're going to present that concept. This study is all about getting that concept moving along the road.
And also, that concept is very much the Waterville Company's development plan. But we know that as a town, we need to look at our infrastructure, our sidewalks, the lighting, and make sure that when we make changes to whether working with this project or even if this development idea falls through, there's going to be something that happens down the road. We don't want to put up 10 light posts to better lighting just to have an expert come along 5 years from now and say, oh no, that's not how they should be. It seems like in the long run it'd be a money saver for us as a town to really know the best picture.
So this meeting is February 23rd?
February 22nd, Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday at 3 o'clock at the conference center.
Is that being presented to any group in particular or everyone?
Townspeople.
It's open to anybody who wants to attend.
Will that be recorded?
Hmm?
Will that be recorded?
We're doing everything we can to
We'll
get the
talk to-
meeting recorded on
we'll talk-
television.
yeah.
Yeah, like this.
I don't know if we could figure out a way to get the gear to work over there, yeah.
We'll work on that, yes.
I just want
Go ahead.
to make one statement, I guess. As a planning board, we've dealt with some of these issues over the years, and it would really be a blessing to have professional study to deal with things that we argue about, or we don't know what direction.
Beyond
I
our
mean,
skill level.
Exactly, and this is so necessary to us. I don't know how to convey it to the rest of the people in
Yeah,
town.
And that's why I think changing, Bill was right, changing the name and just letting you know that this isn't just looking at sidewalks or parking or buses. This is looking at creating the core of the town in a way that we don't have to keep going back and doing things over and over again. We wanna make it all integrated and work together. So, that's why we're gonna try to bring these guys in and do this.
Could you put this in perspective relative to something that sounded similar? I don't know whether it was 5, 10, 15 years ago, but I remember going to one of these public meetings, and the thing that triggered it was the gondola. And I thought, oh boy, here we go again. And how is this, things have obviously changed, and Nelson's Path and that area is all different than was planned at one time, but is this meant to be a similar
No.
sort of thing?
Tim, I think what the main goal from the town's perspective, or my perspective as a resident here, is to have someone come in and explain to us what if, then will. Meaning that we don't know what our capabilities are going forward. A developer wouldn't know that, and the developer would come here, and the planning board that doesn't have the expertise to deal with a project that's been, we don't know how many parking spaces we're gonna need for how many beds, and how much space we have, and the best way to achieve that, providing a space that the townspeople want. We don't want it leveled at all parking lots. We want, a specific green area. We want, this is just my thought, I want as a citizen, I want the character of the town to stay the same. But I see the change, we need to do something. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen. But at least we'll all have a baseline to go to understand that if we're gonna do this, this road has to be expanded. If we're gonna do this, they're gonna put here, this area has to be developed for parking. How are they gonna achieve the parking? Are they gonna have to put it underground? One of the things I've heard is, I've seen this parts of the plan, is there are ways for, funding available for underground parking structures where we can get. How do we do this where it doesn't become the town's burden? Just so we have a baseline. We've had conceptual plans like the plan Donald did, which is, I think, what you're talking about 15 years ago, that big master plan. Really didn't, it just showed up, it'd be lovely if we have this here and that here and all that. But this is actually bringing us down to some just pretty brass basics. They might have suggestions we don't like. And, that's the privilege we have to be able to be the voters here. But at least we'll have someone who knows what they're doing. It's great that we all volunteer and help in the town, but we're all limited by what we know and what we try to do in our best interests. So I think that's one of the other necessities for this, is to really give us a clue, give us a guidebook like the Cliff Notes as to what we need to know going forward.
We don't even know what we don't know.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's go back to the, yep, that one there. Back there. Public safety building improvements, the $50,000 warrant article. This is to make improvements once the public works garage, and if the public works garage is built, and we move Public Works out. We're gonna go into those areas that I talked about, the maintenance bay and some of those back offices, and we're going to redo them because there are some safety issues, personal health issues in those areas, and also because we want to construct a per diem staff sleeping quarters and shower area. As you know, we use per diem folks to come in on a day-to-day basis at night and cover the town. Well, maybe you don't know, but we do. So that we have 24-hour-a-day coverage here on site. Right now, we rent a room at the Golden Eagle Lodge, and they sleep at the Golden Eagle Lodge overnight, which gives them a place to sleep and a shower, which we're required to provide if they're here overnight. By this $50,000 will go towards making improvements in the existing town office building. I don't know where, I don't know what it will look like, but this is a budget number to do that work once Public Works is out of there. This is a temporary thing. We're hoping until phase 2 of the building plan out in 2019, but it is a relatively long-term upgrade and repair to the building. Any questions about this item?
Could you go back to the beginning of your statement?
Yes.
When you said you know that we have 24 covered, but maybe you don't? What does that mean?
Well, no, maybe
I
you do not.
don't mean to sound stupid.
Maybe you do not know
I
that we have
don't know.
24-hour day coverage, but we do. We have 24-hour day coverage.
What?
On-site ambulance.
Ambulance.
Yes.
And fire.
And
That
fire.
makes sense.
Ambulance and fire.
And police.
And police. All public safety.
About $10,000.
About $10,000 a year, so over 5 years we do.
But these are also things that we need to do in the building where we've looked, where we're way behind, and things that if we renovate and expand the building, which hopefully phase 2 will be, will not be things that will be in vain. These will
Right.
be long-term solutions to short-term problems.
Okay. Good. The grinder pump replacement, I won't go into the gory details, but it's at the wastewater treatment plant, and it's a critical piece of equipment that is necessary for the operation of the plant. So the $75,000 is to replace an existing pump that's over 15 years old. You know, the tanks that we replaced were over 40 years old. We get our money when we put, money's worth when we put new equipment into the plant, and Greg does a good job of running it. So I really recommend that you approve that warrant article come town meeting, please. And then the final one is Corcoran Pond Capital Reserve. To put another $10,000 into that capital reserve. We are continuing to work with our engineering firm on improvements / upgrades to the dam. We don't want to spend that money unless we absolutely have to. So only if the state absolutely makes us will we do it. But we are in the planning phases so that if they ever were to say you must do this, we'll be ready and have a good plan going forward. So
How much do we have in that reserve?
this $10,000, we have $70,000. It would bring us up to
Which is
80.
totally excluded from the $754,000.
Yes, that's
one has
correct.
nothing to do with the other.
That's correct.
So it's a designated fund.
Designated capital reserve account. Yes. Okay. Any questions?
That's
Okay. The operating budget. First, the capital projects, 2 big ticket items in the operating budget itself. The sidewalk tractor, our final year of the lease, 3-year lease. The vehicle is working great for us. It better because it's a Lamborghini. So it is a nice piece of equipment, but really, Jim can speak to this if you have any questions, but we have an articulated mower arm that we use in the summer, and that's really helped on our roadside maintenance on the road edges, and has given us the ability to keep the vegetation at bay. which helps with road maintenance overall. So it's not just used for sidewalks. And then we have an account that the selectmen control, a reserve account, that we use for emergency repairs of the water and sewer lines. We've had several mains that have broken water. We even had a sewer issue too, right, Jim? We have used up the money that was in that account, and we want to refund it. And that's what the $50,000 would go to. We had how many breaks this year? 2013? 2 of them? 3? 2.
Why do we have to bring it up?
3.
Because you know what we'll be doing tomorrow.
Yes, you'll be fixing another one. That's right. All right, so,
On the sidewalk tractor,
Yes.
does that become ours?
yes, it's
$1
a dollar out of the lease, so we own
Oh,
it.
so it's a purchase.
We own it, and
Yeah,
it's a lease
It was a
purchase.
3-year purchase.
Right, it's 3-year purchase agreement, it wasn't a lease.
Right.
We call
When
it
does
a
that
lease.
actually take place?
Probably the day
The
before it
payment?
breaks.
It was making a
Always
funny
with the
noise when
negative
it went by
ratings.
my unit today, so check it out.
We're gonna, yeah, it's like in July when we make the payment,
And how long do we expect that to last?
I think. It's in the vehicle plan for 15 years.
And we're in year 3 of it?
We're in year 3. The last one lasted 16 years, I think. Yeah, it is. Okay, so the town operating budget, you can go back to pages 1 and 2 of your packet. And we can go down department by department. I do want to highlight these 3 major areas here: personnel, special programs, and other. We've already talked about the debt service pretty much, but next slide. Let's talk about personnel first. And this is throughout each one of these departments. We have an increase in our retirement, about $16,500. We talked about that, and a cost of living increase recommended for 1.5% cost of living increase, which would be across the board to each of the full-time employees. Our part-timers are not included in this. We basically have an amount of money for part-timers because we rotate on a seasonal basis and we don't have the same people throughout the year. So just the 1.5% is just full-timers.
What constitutes part-time in terms of hours?
Full-time is 40 hours or more, so anything up to 40 hours.
So if you work 37 hours, you're considered part-time?
By our personnel policy, yes.
You don't get benefits?
You do not. Okay, any questions on these, on personnel items? There also is a department by department breakdown in your packet that you can look at, or if any of you have questions, if you've looked at it and see anything, now's the time to ask. Next slide, please. So our special programs, we have a couple this year. I just wanted to highlight the one big one. That is, those are found on page 1 under line 4199, other general government. You see the triathlon support and the other special items that we have. The triathlon support for $15,000, we've had a proposal come to the town for a multi-day event and the first weekend of August. It'll be both the traditional road races and also trail races, and we're in the process of coordinating with the National Forest and getting those set up. But it should be a good event. The $15,000 will be used for town support, which includes public safety support, materials, basically basically
Rec center
the
program.
rec center programming, that sort of thing.
Is that the black flag?
Well, it's a
replacing-
replacement.
It's, oh, it's a
Yeah.
replacement.
Yeah.
So the $15,000 isn't going to the Enduro Sport Company?
No, it's, we're giving them a little bit of money. We're giving them about $3,500 for outside advertising, but the rest of it is in services.
That was my question.
Okay.
We work well together, don't we?
Thank you, bad information, but I had heard that the Black Flag, left because we couldn't accommodate their rooms and other things.
No.
And
I negotiated with the Black Fly, I talked with them. Black Fly pulled out because the promoters of Black Fly are no longer promoting, road races and triathlons. Now, the reason we went after these people is they came up with the best proposal because the town, Resort Association of the Merchants and Lodging feel it's necessary, it's a good event to bring here. And to subsidize these people for a year to give them a shot to get it rolling is a lot better than running ads for other stuff. But it was their choice not to come, and they're out of the business.
where have these people been in Europe?
They have been around New England for about 15 years. They just won an award for being the best promoter of one of the races from Vermont, won a national award.
Thank you.
If you want to look them up, it's called Sun Multi Sports. They've got a great website, and they do probably 8 or 9 events in New England a year.
So is this definitely your company?
Yep.
Well,
Well-
unless we take it out of the budget.
Or if the Forest Service doesn't come through, but even if the Forest Service doesn't come through, I think they're gonna run the road race events anyways. What they're trying to do is they're trying to gear the events so they're heavily loaded for the second day to encourage people to stay over and make this a weekend. The other thing that this group is going to do that I think is gonna be great for the valley is they're gonna promote Waterville Valley through their shows and through their media as a place for triathletes to come and train in the off seasons. You know, just this is, you're not doing anything on a March weekend, April weekend, November weekend, why don't you go up to Waterville? Ride your bike on our nice flat roads, use our pool, you know.
What flat roads?
Nicely paved roads.
And ideally, these are the kind of people we'd like to have in the valley. Or I shouldn't say I would like to have in the valley.
Yes,
What is community communications?
it is basically upgrading the website. That is, we have selected a company to come in and help us revamp the entire website. And we're gonna start that process here relatively quickly. Did I forget anything? What else are we gonna do? I think that's all we have. Any other questions on the special items? The other budget items, we talked about debt service already in detail, so the first year of our information technology office, Tom has moved from the rec department over to town administration. We've started a formal information technology department within the town, and you can see that in the breakdown of the town budget. We do have the goal, a major goal of improving the town website, because we feel that that's critical to the communications effective with not only all of you, but also our out-of-town property owners. We have started our online payments. We offer online payments for basically everything, water, sewer, taxes. We have online auto registrations available, vital records for the town clerk, things like marriage licenses, and that sort of thing. We want to continue, as we're doing this evening, to live stream our meetings, planning board meetings, selectmen's meetings, these public hearings. They'll be archived and available for folks who cannot be here to watch them. So we want to continue to do that. We do need faster internet connections at the town hall to really make this a reality. There are times when we just drop off in the middle of a meeting, and that's not good for the people who are watching. So we do want to look for that. We want to improve our equipment. We've already started. Tom's putting together a more comprehensive capital program for the replacement of all of our computers. We have probably several $100,000 with all of our printers and computers, monitors, network hardware, and all of that. So we need a replacement plan. We can't just be reacting week to week if something breaks. So that'll be part of what Tom does also.
Mark, I might mention, one of the other big goals is to significantly improve communication to you, the residents.
Right.
Example being like the recent thing where we've had problems with some people knocking doors down, is being able on our website through email blasts and the rest, be able to let the residents know right away what's going on and what they should do and not do. And that's just an example. And we don't really have that capability today. And we really do need it. The other thing we need is public records. There are tons of public records, and we want to make those available to you so that if you have an interest in understanding some of this gory detail, you'd be able to go to the website and look it up and find out what you want to know. And we're just behind the times. We really need to get on with this. I also want to say this is not a $77,000 increase. Basically, this money is coming from it's changes in other parts of the budget. When you consolidate them all together in one department, it looks like all of a sudden we got a $77,000 item. There's really no increase. Is the easiest way to say it. It just shows up. It comes out of other areas. So net, it's there's no change in head count. We're able to get this by making other changes.
Any other questions? Thank you. As usual, you guys get tortured by me for an hour. But I want to thank the department heads for all of the work that they do in putting together the budget. We've been working on it since October, and they do a great job. Oh, Pat, yes? More questions?
Yeah, I want to know why the
Yes.
library was cut by $4,000.
Oh.
There is an account which it has, I thought it had $12,000. I have not told the selectmen this yet. It was after the meeting. I thought that there was $12,000 in it. That it ends up you spent, I believe, $3,000 of that this year. So there's like $9,000 in it. That's controlled by the trustees. We cut this based on the $12,000 number, and I talked to the trustees, and I'm going to ask the selectmen to put $2,000 of the $4,000 back in. The trustees agreed to do that, and the other $2,000 was a building maintenance line item, but all that needs to be done in 2014 is replacing a door, and they can do it with their $9,000 library account. So we'll put the $2,000 back in for books if the board agrees to it, and we'll go from there.
Because that's what it always was 2,000, and it's been $2,000 a year for probably 20 years.
But that's why it was cut, and like I said, they just heard it with you, so.
Well, you selectmen will definitely want to put that back into that budget before town meeting,
Again,
don't we?
yeah, the only reason it came out is because we were looking at an account that had $12,000 of unspent
you haven't
money.
spent for years.
Yeah, so.
If you still got 9, spend it.
Well, it's been sitting there for a while.
We spent a fair amount back when we replaced the windows and.
But you still have
Right, but you still got 12 left or something.
So you want the library to be broke before you support it on
No.
an annual basis?
No, not at all. Okay, but you asked the reason why.
Yes,
Okay.
that's the reason.
I have a question, since the, Chris and the police chief are here, can they tell us how many break-ins actually occurred and what the cause of the fire was? Actually, I know there's a wood stove involved, but would be good to know.
First, I'd like to say, for the betterment of the town, there was, a family in town that, took a pretty big hit on personal items, and personal property. Luckily, everybody was safe and everything. I'm just wondering if there's anybody that, and you don't have to volunteer now, but we'd like to have somebody kind of coordinate the volunteer charitable efforts for this family. It was, from what we can tell, it was a dirty chimney that got overheated, and, as you know, in a lot of the complexes, they have the chimney chases, those big square boxes that have the flues in them. Well, it got so hot in there that the inside of the chase caught on fire and just started rolling. It was rolling all the way up and down the chase, and then it started going out to the sides. So they did take a pretty big hit yesterday. So, and like I say, just give us a call and we can coordinate some efforts or whatever. I know that the family is very, they're not asking for anything. They say they're cleaning. But it might be nice if we get together. And I also wanted to promote our Nixle. Does anybody in this room have our Nixle? Yeah. Okay, how many people got the notice of the burglaries on the Nixle? Okay. Just, that's a very good resource that we have, to get word out for things like these. And we kind of give the general, be on the lookout, this is what happened, but I'll let Dave, talk about numbers and MOs and things like that.
Yeah, from what I can tell you is this week, occurred last Wednesday is the first time that we got a report of it. One of our full-time residents was one of the ones that called it in. Happened when they were gone. They were gone for about an hour and a half. So it was a very short window. And we discovered on their unit, we checked all the other units and discovered 5 more up in the Forest Rim location and 2 others up in Boulderwood. Cursory check of this area around here didn't have any discoveries, but we certainly did anticipate more as our weekenders came up and made some of these discoveries. Not all of the break-ins were obvious, not all the doors were broken. So if they were able to make entry, which most of the entries were very rudimentary, just a boot to the door, kicking the door in, breaking a jam, getting inside. Some of the items were TVs, flat screen TVs, game consoles, change, some minor jewelry. We're trying to work with those victims to try to locate those items through serial numbers and pawn shops and that sort of thing. We did discover over the weekend there was another one over at Sunnyside and 4 subsequent ones over, 4 at Sunnyside and 1 at Snowsbrook.
That's a lot.
So it's about, we're up to about 10. We're hoping, but we certainly do probably anticipate that not everybody came up this weekend, and as people come up on the subsequent weekends, we may get a few more that have gone undiscovered. We've done our best efforts to have officers go through all these complexes and talk with the property managers and actually have the property managers go check these places on behalf of the owners. So for right now, we're up to 10. It's still being investigated. We're hoping that there is a few leads that we have that we're going to try to follow up on, but so far, nothing yet.
When you say 10, do you think that 10 was a single day event, or do you think it's a multiple day event?
We believe so. We're treating the ones over at Sunnyside as a separate event because most of that, we have a week time span there. So it's certainly possible that whoever perpetrated these could have came back the next day and hit those places. We just don't know. The folks weren't home. We don't have any witnesses. Yes.
I was informed, and I don't know if this is true or not to make light of the situation, that in one of the units that was broken into, someone had actually taken out a Wii console, set it up, and had played games there for a while. Is that true?
No, I think that that's what they initially thought
Okay.
until they discovered and
Is that what they
kids
were,
came
just
home and
kids?
said, no, they didn't actually do that, the game console's missing.
Oh, okay.
Mom
sorry.
and dad didn't,
Mom and
didn't
dad
actually
didn't know.
know what was actually missing, and actually took the children and said, yeah, my game's missing. Yes.
And how does this compare to other years? Do we have, I mean, I have no idea if we have any burglaries at all in one of those.
This is certainly an uptick for us. We are very fortunate we don't have a lot of these. I think where we're located and the geography very much deters this sort of thing. Especially midweek when there is not a lot of people around. You're looking at full-time residents are the only ones that are typically around here, and workers, whether it's your property manager, roofers, plumbers, electricians, that sort of thing. So when you do have suspicious people or vehicles in this town, we're very fortunate that those things stick out. People do notice those. It's good for us because we notice on a regular basis, we know who's coming here to go to work at the mountain. We know who's going to work at Town Square. We see that traffic on a daily basis. We know what's kind of normal. At this particular time, it wasn't in an area that was very well, there wasn't a lot of permanent residents. We did, in one case, have some permanent residents, but I don't think that they knew that it was an occupied structure. So, yes.
Were you able to lift prints?
No, we were not. We do have some smudges, but it all indicates to me that either they were wearing gloves or just the temperature outside and the surfaces that they were touching doesn't lend itself. Like to say there's a lot of truth to CSI, but it's a little tougher than that.
Was it all condos, Dave?
It was, so far, it's been no private homes.
We were very, 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 very close to getting a picture of this person.
Really?
There's some of the condos have security systems in them, and this person chose one of the condos with a security system in it, but he never reached the area where the picture gets taken. He was only about 6 feet away from getting his picture taken. So we were so happy to see that camera in there, and then we were so bummed. They have pictures of us in there. Not the guy there, which is, so, there's some vigilance.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to speak to prevention. I heard that units that were dead bolted were not necessarily breached, whereas those where just the handle was off were. Is that true?
We did see indication, especially up in Boulderwood, where footprints in the snow going up the doors. The ones that appeared to have a deadbolt and the ones that were actually engaged were not attempted. But the two units that did not have a deadbolt engaged were the ones that were actually did. So which tells me that certainly a deadbolt was a deterrent for this particular person or persons over there. Waterville is famous for people who don't like to lock their doors. I've always encouraged everybody to lock your doors. In this case, certainly a deadbolt was a deterrent, and it is a great, it does take much more considerable effort to get through a deadbolt. Look at the construction of your doors and your jambs too. Some of your condo units, Forest Room, are much older. There's been some considerable wear there. It doesn't take much, even if you do lock the doors. So talk to your property managers. Maybe it's something that needs to be upgraded and needs to be worked on. Yes.
On the deadbolt subject, are you saying that the condos that do not have deadbolts, or they try to break into condos that had deadbolts but weren't locked? I'm trying to differentiate.
The ones we saw are up in Boulderwood. The ones at Forest Rim did not have deadbolts. I believe.
So they chose ones that didn't have deadbolts.
They didn't have deadbolts. Boulderwood did. but the two in particular did not have them engaged, okay?
But they still tried, or?
No, they
They walked away because
they were
they
able
saw
to
it.
gain entry, but the ones that actually had deadbolts that were locked, they never tried.
Okay.
Are the doors are folded with glass or are they solid?
Solid. Yes?
Can you tell us a little bit about the secret system that we can plug into to find out?
The Nixle?
Absolutely.
We have over 500 subscribers to our Nixle. It sends out alerts for water main breaks, burglaries, fires, road closures, any potential impact that we may have as a citizen getting around town. NIXLE.
NIXLE.
If you go to our Department of Public Safety website,
Okay.
I don't know if you've been there, there's a link there that will,
Yeah, there's a link on our website for Nixle. You can get it through any one of the pages. You sign up, it's free, okay? If it asks you for an address, sometimes it's a little finicky with some of the road names here in town. You don't have to put your actual address. If you put Valley Road, Waterville Valley, you're signed up. They're not gonna send you any mail. They're gonna, you get to choose what alerts you wanna listen to get. It will instantly send you a message to your text. If you give them your cell phone number, they don't send you spam, they don't sell your number. It's strictly for municipal emergency departments, okay? It is great. When we do that, it also, if you're on Facebook, subscribe to us on Facebook, because it duplicates. That message instantly goes to our Facebook page, and if you're a Facebook user, you'll automatically get it there too, okay?
Thank you. One other question about the fire. Could the pipe, the actual pipe, have been substandard and old?
it was a new installation, we'll look, I say new, it was a fairly modern installation, but we are looking into that.
And so the
It
pipe-
doesn't appear there was any faulty, or failure in the system. There is indication though that it wasn't maintained properly, but we can only speculate, it's gonna be weighing what's more probable than actually finding the total answer.
Sharon, did you have a question?
My office got a telephone message about the break-in. Did that come from the police department?
That was code red.
Oh, it's Code Red. There is a second redundant system that the county uses. It's called Code Red. You can get that on our website too. I'd suggest that you sign up for it. It is more a county-wide type of notification system. And the Code Red system does the reverse 911. Have you heard of the reverse 911? So they can make a bank full of calls on a geographic area. So say they wanted to call every home in Waterville Valley to let them know that there's a missing person. Code Red can do that. You can sign up for Code Red. It's free, just like Nixle. Through our website, it's managed and run through the Grafton County Sheriff's Office. We're part of Grafton County. It's part of their service, the county service that they provide. It's a little more broad than the Nixle. Nixle, you will get right here
From us.
anything directly from us. The Code Red is more county-wide, county-based. I suggest signing up for both. Doesn't hurt. And the messages you won't get inundated with. There's no advertising, there's no spam or anything like that.
Are there any other questions? If not, Mr. Go ahead.
I have one comment. I'd appreciate having these PowerPoint presentations. I think they were very useful if you could put them on the website.
Mark, can you do
Yep.
that? Okay,
Thank you.
absolutely. Any other questions, comments? If not, we're going to call the meeting to close, the budget hearing meeting. And if there will be a follow-up meeting next Wednesday following the regular selectmen's meeting, which probably means around 5:30. So if something comes up in the interim and you want to get your question asked, we'll reopen the budget hearing at that time.